Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Hi, everybody. It is Julie Schrager, your podcast host of Nothing But Julie. Thank you so much for joining me. And today I am so happy to have a friend of mine from high school, or actually from middle school, I think.
Middle school, yeah.
It's been middle school. I know it's been a long time. Shari Coltune. And this is the second interview I'm doing with her because she's just so amazing. And we really didn't touch on something else that she does, which is being a master certified integrative life coach and intuitive healer. And Shari works with individuals who are struggling with the things that once held her back. And some of those things that we're going to talk about are autoimmune disease, estrangement, and the loss of identity. And let me explain how Shari utilizes this. She utilizes her unique Beyond the Break estrangement workshops, which support people beyond the shame of estrangement. I love that. And additionally, Shari shows others what it means to bring light to those places they've kept hidden from even ourselves. Welcome, Shari.
Thank you.
So glad to have you
great.
back. I know. It's from your website, and it was it was so well written.
Thank you.
So like I just said, we're going to talk about some of the things that we didn't talk about before. And I think that most especially in today's world with all of the stuff that's happening and with the pandemic and the emotional status of many people, I think that it has increased, the amount of, I would just, for lack of a better word, people need help with, whether emotionally, mentally, physically. A lot of people have had issues, not only with the pandemic, but like we were talking about with inflation, just everything that's just kind of hit the fan. So what I'd like to know, first of all, with you is, was there anything in particular that made you realize that you could help others by being a life coach?
First of all, I love this. So thank you for that question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard this expression, the issues are in your tissues. And so when you're on the dark side of the moon, when you're in your darkest hour, or, you're just in this space of constantly being low, beating yourself up, being stuck. Life isn't giving us what we want or think we deserve. What happens is it creates this intensity blockage in your body. So it's in your tissues. And what makes me think that I was able to be a good life coach is I get it. And there's steps that you can take. There's structures that you can use, skill sets that you can create that can help you navigate when things are, not going great. Because I never want to label something as good or bad, because nothing is bad. There's growth in the bad, and I'm doing air quotes, so you can't see me. So, that I empathize. I'm a good listener. I can read between the lines, and my gift in my intuition really helps accelerate change for somebody else, because I really can hear things and feel things that are going on unconsciously.
I think that when you make a decision to do something like what it is you're doing. And it's just my own personal opinion that
Mm-hmm.
I think that many people decide to delve into this kind of work because it's worked for them. And because of, let's say, some issues that they might have to overcome. And when they realize just how incredible, this work is that you do, you want to help other people,
Mm-hmm.
overcome whatever it is that they're going through as well. So, and I remember also you telling me that that was, one of the things as well. But, you know, you're ever evolving. We're all ever evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that as we evolve, we're going to be able to stay mentally healthy. There's always
Right.
these things that happen that we might not be aware of that are
Yeah.
affecting us throughout our lives, that
Mm-hmm.
change us. Um,
And
okay.
asking for help, I just want to hop on something that you just said. And
Yeah.
asking for help can bring up an extreme amount of fear
Mm,
and, create, a lot of angst in your body. And it can also liberate you,
sure.
knowing that it is okay to ask for help and that asking for help is actually where the transformation can be.
Mm,
And I'm not talking about, poll taking, asking this person for advice. What should I do? And then going to the next person. What do you think I should do? And
yeah.
then you're left feeling overwhelmed and confused. That's not what I'm saying, right?
Mm,
I'm saying that asking for help, knowing that you've reached a point where it's you can't navigate, your emotions are too high or you're just feeling too low, whatever it is, it's okay to ask for help.
that's that's such great advice. It is because, people like people, I guess I would say my parents' age, the old fashioned people, they don't believe really in any kind of help. And I think that it is so important to kind of get on the bandwagon of what you just said. But with some
Yeah.
people, they just don't want to hear it. Like my dad, he doesn't believe in, anything like that, getting any kind of help,
Right.
and it's sad when,
Yeah.
it really can help. It really
Yeah.
can.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so let's talk about the different forms of life coaching you do. I know that you do, and if you want to, we could just break it down. I
Sure.
have autoimmune awareness coaching, estrangement coaching, and identity coaching. So is there
Hmm.
one in particular you'd like to start with?
They kind of all, when you chunk them all down,
Mm,
it's it really comes back to what is going on, what is the conversation going on with you internally.
mm,
So identity coaching, right? What are you, people that have gone through menopause,
mm-hmm.
me, right? Your bodies
Me,
are changing, right?
I'm
Your
going through it. Yep.
your bodies are changing. You're not the same. Your body doesn't look the same. Your body doesn't feel the same. So some people make themselves wrong, right?
Mm,
And then it creates a whole other set of instructions that you're living by, and it's not necessarily healthy, right?
right,
That's
right.
just one example. Another example of identity coaching is your kids are going off to college, you're empty nesting. When
Oh
you have
yeah.
given your life to your kids, and all of a sudden you are left, quote unquote, you can't see me, alone, it
Right.
brings up a lot of fear.
Yes.
And who am I? What am I? And people that are going through divorces.
Yeah.
um, so identity can strike in any form, a death
Yes.
of, you know, of not just the parent, it can be a good friend, it can be a relative, you know, anything that's going to disrupt your way of being in the present can affect your identity.
Mm, that
That,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Makes a lot of sense. And
yeah,
it's I actually I have gone through that. I mean, when my son graduated college and got a full-time job, although he's still living with me, I
yeah,
hardly see him. He works
yeah.
6 days a week, and And all of a sudden, I remember being like, what now?
Yes.
Like,
The
because,
what now?
right,
Hmm.
because I actually had identified myself as a mom and a wife for a
Yeah.
long time. And even though I was working, it was just, it all happened around the time of COVID. He literally graduated right before COVID. So it just kind of all happened all at the same time. And I stopped working. And, then I was trying to navigate the waters of what comes next now. And that's still where I'm at. I'm
Hmm.
still trying to figure out what's next for me, taking it
Yeah.
one step at a time, what's best for me. And so I completely understand that. And there's so many people that go through that. And it's normal, but
So
it's figuring
what's
it out.
yeah, and what I invite you to do, I
Yes.
always tell my clients this as well. The help wanted signs that you see on storefronts. It's like help
Yeah.
wanted, inquire within.
Yeah.
So this is what I tell my clients. This is a great opportunity to inquire within. What is
Mm,
it that you want? What is it that you desire? What is it that you need?
mm.
Instead of creating fear, this can be liberating and exciting for you to rediscover who you are. So I do this. One of the models that I do coach is reinvention coaching, and it
Mm.
really delves into the transformation equation of change, identity, kids leaving, whatever, menopause, divorce, whatever that is, equals vision. Okay, so what is the
Okay.
new vision that you want to have for yourself? Then plus choice, because without the knowledge, or the awareness, actually, the insights of what your vision looks like for you, you can make different choices based on that, and then plus action.
I love it.
And yeah, so we really delve into that. And sometimes self-worth, worthiness issues do, does appear. It's more common than not. So
Yeah.
we look at your worthy. Where do you feel worthy? Where do you feel lack of worthiness? And then we work within that. And so that's what I was saying, that all the models really, when you chunk it down, come back to pretty much the same conversation.
When you just said that look at it in a positive way, I have to tell you, as soon as you said that to me,
Yeah.
like a fragment of my attitude completely changed just by your words. All
Yeah,
of
I
a
love
sudden,
that.
I was like, yeah, Julie,
See, that's so bad.
embrace this shit. No, seriously, because instead of me being like, oh, woe is me, what am I going to do now? Now I'm just kind of like, yeah, what am
You
I going
get
to
to read,
do?
you get to rediscover you.
I
And and
do.
and that is very liberating and transformative. And that helps you lower the voice of your internal inner critic. And
Yes.
then you can raise the volume on your inner cheerleader, like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you know,
I
that's,
love that.
yes,
The
yeah,
power of words. I am
yes,
telling you. And
yes.
I love when someone can say something so simple to me and all of a sudden like, okay. And now I'm like, okay, yeah, what do I do?
Yeah,
I've got like a plethora of things I really want to do and
yeah.
I have no idea where to even start, but that's a whole other thing. But
Yeah, well, we can talk, Julie. We
we
can
can
talk.
talk, I know.
So,
Okay,
yes,
you're so funny. Okay, so now you just mentioned the inner critic. So
yeah,
you said the inner critic, and I'm doing air quotes now, the chatterbox.
yes.
So is there um, a recommendation, or what is it that you maybe do to help people stop turning over the power to our thoughts?
So our natural, for many, our natural instinct is to really go into the negative. Okay, and again, I kind of go back into the issues are in the tissues, right?
Yeah.
Because it becomes your inner critic really ends up being a protector. It's there to protect you. And a lot, you and even me, when I first learned this concept, and a lot of my clients are like, what? Yes, it's there to protect you, and it's exhausting.
Yes.
And but when you try to resist it, you know the only thing that happens is you're actually turning up the volume. So I do invite you to turn to it and, go into the inquiry of it, invite it in. Oh, all right, I'm recognizing that my inner critic, that chatterbox is just, it's like high on cocaine right now, right? And so you look at it, okay, what is the voice? What is the voice of the inner critic? What is the information that it's trying to protect me from? What am I needing to learn here? And you know what, Julie? Sometimes it's about setting a boundary.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is about understanding that you just allowed, not you personally, I'm, three fingers pointing back at me too, that you allowed somebody to cross your boundary. And sometimes just even the recognition of that can turn down the volume just a little bit. And I'll go into boundaries in 1 second. I just want to make a thought, just
That was
add
my
another
next
thought.
question, actually. So it's perfect you were going to talk about that.
Yes. Because boundaries is remarkable. One of the things with the inner critic, it's really turning towards it, and asking asking certain questions. And then once you're done with the inquiry, you can say, stop, cancel, clear now. Okay. Stop, cancel, clear. Get that voice out of here. And then choose to listen to something positive. It's not really about BSing yourself. It's about working with what you have now. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Because you're never going to not have the inner critic. So it's really about getting to know it and why is it showing its head right now, really loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me. And it's happened to everyone. No one can say it hasn't happened to them because we
Right.
all have that little voice inside of our heads. So how can we make the process of boundaries less uncomfortable aside from
Yeah. So I love the boundary conversation. I am
yeah.
certified in boundary coaching. And one of the things with boundaries is really understanding and really letting it land. Because this will be very transformational for you, is to really own that it really is you that has been crossing your own boundaries. And it can be very difficult to get in a 5-minute conversation, but it's us that really is crossing our own boundaries when we even think somebody crossed it. I'm not talking about like heavy abuse. I'm
Right.
not talking about that because I'm not dismissing it or diminishing it. Trust me. I'm talking about, the people pleasers out there, that, letting, always spreading yourself too thin, giving too much, accepting very little from other people. There's underneath, when we chunk that down, it also can bring up worthiness
Yeah.
issues. And then we go into some worthiness, which I'm certified in worthiness too. But when we really learn to take ownership, Julie, of our boundaries, it really does move us from blame to victim to responsibility to empowerment. And
I love it.
it's a beautiful dance. And it really is about learning to locate yourself and then placing yourself at the center of your life.
It's great how you're explaining that because when we were talking before about, how people just they don't want to ask for help.
Yeah.
When you talk about how you break it down, it's amazing how and I've been through it before. I've seen therapists throughout my life, even though you're much different than that. I know that. But before I even heard of life coaches is when I would, seek therapy.
Of course.
I need to be tweaked every now and then. Sometimes I need someone to speak to. Sometimes I need help with something. And I have no shame whatsoever in having to seek for any kind of help, especially for my own mental health. But when you just
Hmm.
broke it down, it's amazing how, people who do need help, if they hear that and they realize how it really ends up in a positive way,
Oh, yeah.
it could really make people really want to experience that through you, you
Yeah,
know?
thank you for saying that. When we're in something and we can't see a way out, it
Hmm.
it ends up consuming us and controlling us. And then
Yes.
we're stuck in this loop, and it creates tension in the body. So we're going to talk about autoimmune in 1 minute,
Yes.
but really learning to understand the patterns of our thoughts is and the need of the thoughts is very important.
Mm,
And it changes, when you change the line of thought and asking yourselves different set of questions, it can shift your perspective. Now, I'm not, again, asking you to lie to yourself or BS yourself or dismiss something that's in your space. Because when you dismiss it, you're only really amplifying it, you're
right.
giving it energy. So it really is just incorporating everything and using everything because, there is that small line that pain is pleasure. And when
Mm,
you walk the line from your pain, you really see the pleasure that the extraction of the lesson or the wisdom behind it is again, I use the word liberating.
yeah.
For me personally, I grew up in a very chaotic, dysfunctional household.
Mm,
And I did not feel very grounded and I didn't feel loved.
hmm,
And so I adapted a persona of being very tough.
yeah.
But inside, there were many times my tail would be between my legs and I would be like, I had a bark, but I was not a biter. And if
Mm,
someone went to bite me, I would run away.
hmm.
And I realized that that actually is my gift because when I froze, I was able to observe.
Oh,
And in my observation, had me be able to read a room and I
wow.
can feel things.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, so when you look at something, it's like, oh, I wish my life was different and da 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 da. I don't because I see why I needed that to create, space to help people heal. And including myself, obviously.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And it's like you've managed to take something that you thought was a deficit and turn it into something positive for yourself. And
And
I, and
that's what I do with my clients.
and
And
that's
yeah,
yes, that's what I
yeah,
was just going to say. So I
yeah.
mean, come on guys, get life coached. I'm telling you. Okay, so let's now talk about the autoimmune awareness
Yes,
coaching.
I
Want to
love
hear
this.
about that.
Okay, I love this. So I do talk about the worthy coaching. I do reinvention coaching, and I do the shadow work coaching. And that is really when we have denied ourselves, and we're birthed this way. Boys don't cry.
Yep.
Girls need to be silent. Stay pretty or whatever.
Yep.
The what's the word I'm looking for? Le- oh, can't think of the word. The teachings of what we teach our kids, the
Yep.
lessons that we teach our kids about emotions, right?
Mm,
So we learn that emotions aren't really a good, safe thing. So we reject them. We're
right.
scared of them. Okay. Scared of anger, scared of rage, scared of grief, scared of sadness, scared of being frustrated, scared of fear. So we're scared. So what do? We freeze and we dismiss and we reject. And when we're rejecting these emotions, they're in our bodies, they're lodged in our bodies. And that creates autoimmune. It creates the inflammation, it creates the disease.
Yep.
And So one of the things that I do with my clients, I have them understand and become really aware that your body is your barometer of the truth. You know things in your body way before it is interpreted in your mind.
Oh my
And
God. I love
yeah,
that.
yes.
Love that.
And when you get that, right? So I teach my clients about self nourishing practices, but always asking them, where do you feel it in your body? How
Mm.
old is that feeling in your body? And Julie, a lot of times a feeling could be when a client, working with me for some time, oh my God, that feeling feels like I was 5 years old. Yeah,
Wow.
that
Wow.
doesn't surprise me.
Mm,
And it'll help you with reactivity in the now,
mm,
trigger, those wonderful little pop-offs that we want to do every once in a
mm.
while.
Yep.
But when you have them, it's really because it's an emotion seeking, a little release.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do teach my clients, and I love it, is that your body will cue you. It'll cue you when a boundary is being crossed, whether somebody is crossing your boundary, even though you're the one who's crossing your own boundary. But what was the part of you that allowed that person to do that?
Mm.
And it'll cue you when you're crossing your own boundaries. Your body will cue you when there's an emotion that needs to be released. And then you could set up a very safe structure to release it. And you can make it a beautiful, you can make it a beautiful thing to be able to release. I started running, I started kickboxing. I had a lot of rage in my
Wow.
body, old rage. And I had no wonder I had a lung autoimmune disease.
Mm.
I started because I used to hold my breath when I was a child
Oh,
because I
really?
didn't want to feel. Yes. So of
Oh,
course, no, it's no wonder I ended up with an autoimmune. So I created a structure to release the old rage, even new rage. I used to say to my kickboxing instructor, I need you to put on pad today because I need to punch a human. Now, would I really go and punch a human? No.
all right.
But it was okay. Like, I'm okay that I have these intense emotions because I friended them,
Yes.
because
And
your
is
body knows.
and
Yes.
is one of the ways out doing something physical? What about if you, let's just say, are handicapped or disabled? Is there another way of releasing it?
Sure, you can write it, you can write it, journal it, you
Mm,
can
right.
talk to somebody. And one of the things that I do have done with certain clients, it doesn't happen in all my sessions, but I did have it happened a couple of times where a client said, I just want to scream at you.
Oh.
Would you step in as my father? Sure,
Oh,
I'm not the father, but sure, sure.
right.
And what do you want to say to me? And it was a session. It was a beautiful session. The things that she was saying, she was screaming. And I held the space for her.
Yeah.
So you can do the talk, but it's about really allowing yourself to feel it.
Yeah,
Dr. Phil
yeah.
always says you can't heal what you don't feel. And I love Dr. Phil. So it's
Mm.
so true.
I like him too, but
Yes.
I don't think many people realize that what they are holding inside. I
Yes.
think that they think that they're adults now and it's all gone, but it's not. It's still a part of you, things that might have happened in your childhood,
Yeah.
just how you've become and how you handle certain situations. And I know, I mean, I'm we're both the same age, close to it, 53, and
Hmm.
I I never stop learning about mental health, and the reason why is because my
Yes.
dad, my whole life, has had depression, panic attacks, anxiety. He now has
Yeah.
dementia, and so I educated myself at a really young age because I was terrified that
Yeah.
I was going to have depression the rest of my life because my aunt on my mother's side said, "Oh, you're screwed. You're going to wind up just like your dad." And I was
Yeah. So
very
that was the message.
yes, I was very
Yeah.
impressionable. I was like
Yeah.
13.
Hmm.
So I've always educated myself and learned about, like, why am I doing the things I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. And, like I said, with other people, just digging in deep. But I don't think that people realize that sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to dig in to release these, and again, air quotes,
Yeah.
demons that are,
Yeah.
making you who you are.
The demons are actually friends.
Yes, you
And
told me about that. Right. I shouldn't have
yes,
said that. I forgot.
no, I love that you said that. I love that you said that because it gives the when you it's a friend,
Yeah.
it's like what, because it's an interpretation,
Mm,
and what do you interpret as a demon? It would be different for me, but
right.
it's an interpretation. And really anything that you can learn from that internally that can create a balance for you and keep you grounded is worth it. So if you're scared of the demon, right, whatever that demon is for you,
Mm,
and you come work with me, we're going to get into what does the demon mean for you. And it's not even about the demon, it'll be something else. And then you're going to end up looking at the demon and go, thank you for setting me up to get coached. Or I'm
mm,
just giving you an example. So that's what,
yeah.
like, you use something that was hard,
Yeah.
and you create, it really wasn't as hard as you thought, because there's healing there. We
Yeah.
all want to be healed.
Yeah, absolutely. We all
Yeah.
do. Some
Yeah.
people more than others. I don't, because like I said before, I don't think that there are, that other people realize the benefit, the freedom that you get from it, you know?
Julie, I would tell you, in my experience, and I've been coaching for 10 years,
Yeah.
a little, yeah, around 10 years. Um, the biggest thing that across the board, is people are afraid to release an emotion.
Yeah.
People do not even know what they are feeling. And talk about identity coaching,
Mm,
reinvention coaching, or even boundary coaching. It's about really learning to feel, because
yeah.
you will be so in tuned to your body. I know things before they happen. Like my husband will say, "What's going to happen?" And I'll just, I
I
feel it.
know. We spoke
Yeah,
about that a couple of weeks ago, and I
yeah.
wanted to keep talking about it because I was so like, just like, I just, I don't know how you do it. It's just something that you were born with probably, but it's
Yeah,
an
but we're
amazing
all
thing.
born with it. Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
born with it, but it's interesting. I used to say to my daughter when she was 2 years old, "What are the angels saying to you?" And she would have a whole
Oh.
conversation.
Oh.
We all have it, but yeah, you just so I would say to my husband when he asks me, I'm like, "Well, what do you feel?
Mm.
Where do you feel it?" Because I'm trying to get him to be more in tune too. But
Yeah.
that whole body barometer is just It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. And I guess some people might look at it as like your gut, like going with what your gut is saying. But I love the word barometer and I love how you presented it. All right. So now I'm going
Well,
to,
can I just wait?
yeah, of course.
I just want to add. Your gut, the gut instinct is great, and it knows, um and the body barometer, when you really tune in, your gut instinct is going to be stronger. It's not
Oh.
necessarily the same thing, because you may feel something in your shoulder. You might be like, you know what? I always get a pain in my shoulder. Let's just say you say
Yeah.
to me, we would go in there and extract what it is, the emotional tie, the physical tie, whatever that is. And then when you start getting that feeling again, you're going to be like, "Oh, there that is again.
Hmm.
Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Then your gut instinct is going to be stronger. Like, I know that if I do X, Y is going to happen because my gut is telling me.
Mm.
And it's because I have that thing in my shoulder.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to tie it together, and it's going to be a strong muscle,
Mm.
really strong muscle.
So interesting.
Hmm. So I just
Um,
wanted to point that out.
yeah. So I'm going to give you a Debbie Ford quote
Okay.
because I'm sure you know it. How we
Hmm.
feel about ourselves now is a result of the choices we have
Yeah.
made in the past. So I know this
Yes.
pertains to choices we might have made unconsciously or to avoid discomfort.
Yes.
So, how can we begin to make small changes?
When we recognize that every choice matters and every choice that we choose to do or not do is setting us up on our path.
Mm,
So if we are, how many times have you ever made a choice not to respond? I'm not going to respond because I don't want to give in, or I'm not going to respond because I don't want to fight with this person,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're actually choosing not to respond, but that's a choice. And that could create discomfort.
Mm,
I see sometimes with my husband, he does that. And
mm.
what happens is it's happened a couple of times. I'm like, but now do you see what it made it worse?
Yeah, it made it worse.
It made it worse. But he had his reasons why. And sometimes you go into freeze mode, sometimes you go into the fight or flight mode. But every choice does matter. And I am coming out with a group coaching
Great.
model, and it's based on the right questions by Debbie Ford, because I
Mm,
do a lot of coaching based on the book, The
yeah,
Right Questions.
right.
Very, very easy, 10 easy questions that are life changing because it has you shift your perspective.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be starting that, promoting that in a few weeks.
Good. That's
Yeah. It's like
awesome.
a 4 to 6 week coaching model, group coaching
Oh,
model.
okay.
Mm-hmm,
Okay, cool.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to skip a question, but actually I'm not. I'm going to ask it.
Okay. Ask
How
away.
ask away. How this is actually something more for like my own individual. Yeah, I
Okay.
like to have the answer for this, but it's obviously going to help others. But it's curiosity. How can we allow ourselves to enjoy the journey? How to live life as a marathon rather than a sprint. That is so important to me because sometimes I don't enjoy the journey. Sometimes I'm always questioning things and it gets in the way. So how can we allow ourselves to enjoy the journey?
So you kind of just said it. Be
Oh,
curious. Curiosity, fascination, observation, checking in with your patterns, your behaviors, your
mm,
thoughts and your feelings. And yeah, when things, we came into this life um to be human, right?
mm-hmm.
And as human beings, it's our right to have ups and downs, good days and bad days. And it's just part of being human. And one of the things that I would invite you to do, Julie, and your listeners, and I do
Yes.
this with my coach, with my clients, I invite you to read Rumi's poem, The Guest House. And it is my favorite. And every time I feel that I am in a dark place, a place of overwhelm, or just really uncomfortable and being uncomfortable in my discomfort, I read that poem and it instantly makes things okay. Because
Okay.
it's, I mean, I could read it to you, but it says that invite it all in. It's your journey. It's
Mm,
part of your journey of being human. And when you invite it in, you're making room for newness, a different
mm.
possibility, a shift in perspective, you know, balance.
I'm
When
looking
you,
at it right now as you're saying it.
yeah, and talk about boundaries. This this
Yeah.
this wonderful poem has you create boundaries too. Like there are people that you would invite in your bedroom, in your
Mm,
kitchen, and then there are other people that you know to keep at a guard gate.
right.
And I'm
Yes.
talking energetic.
Yes.
Physical too, but really energetic. And that poem can invite you to your question. How can you enjoy the journey on the bad
Yeah.
days? That's why you invite it in.
Wow. Well
Hmm.
said. So now,
Yeah.
how we might have touched on this, but it's actually a little more prevalent. And like I was mentioning before about COVID,
Yeah.
how do you help those who might have been suffering from an excess amount of anxiety due to COVID or other circumstances? I mean, don't give away, everything, but just a little snippet of how you might help those who suffer from that excess amount of anxiety.
It's
Outside
really,
forces.
yeah, of course. It's really about learning to accept the suckiness. It sucked. COVID sucked. The fear of
Yeah.
COVID sucked. The fear of eating, the fear of, having a place to stay. It sucked. This
Yeah.
whole thing sucked. And
It did.
yeah, and I invite you to be in the acceptance of the suckiness.
Hmm.
And then you take the least sucky route and you create a structure that will, like a self-nourishing structure, that when
Right.
you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you do something to release it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I have taught, I do personally, and I teach my clients to do, is look around.
Mm.
Look around and look at, the I Spy game.
Yeah.
So I spy the colors of the rainbow. Where do you
Oh,
see something red? And sometimes, like I'm looking at my window right now, I don't see anything red, but because I'm looking for something red, I'm like, oh, wow, I don't see anything red. So now I'm really looking around to see where I can find red. I'm not in my head.
right.
I'm not overwhelmed in this second.
Right.
Okay, so I'm like, oh my God, I literally can't find red. So now I'm on a mission to find something red. Okay, what about orange? My pavers are orange, so
Yeah.
you go through the colors of the rainbow,
That's a
and
great idea.
it's a great release. And then also while you're doing that, hands on heart. Hands
Mm.
on heart, you're looking around. If you can't put your hands on the heart, just put your hands on your stomach, you know,
Right.
on your breath, check in with your breath. A 4 count breath
Right.
helps tremendously. Breathe in 4 count, out four
Love it.
count, and you do it 4 times. Those will
Okay.
help you, just create, even if it's for a second, Julie, a second of reprieve is
Hmm.
better than no reprieve at all.
Right. That's great. No, I love that.
Yeah.
And that kind of answered my next question, which was what methods do you have to help those people shift their focus into being more positive? But I think that you can safely say that you can use those same tactics
Sure. Yeah.
also, you know.
You, I believe that having a positive outlook is important, and it's helpful and wonderful.
Yeah.
But I don't want you or anybody to, BS themselves. Like if you say to yourself, I have to be positive. I have to be positive,
Right.
knowing that you feel really bad, then you're not really feeling positive. The
Mm.
positive, having a positive outlook is knowing that X is happening and I can use it and choose a different way of thinking. So, one of the questions that I coach, one of the sessions that I do coach is based on Debbie Ford's book.
Hmm.
Am I looking for what's right, or am I looking for what's wrong? Is
Oh,
this an act of faith, or is this an act of fear? Those questions are one and a half sessions that I do.
mm,
And it's really, so if you're, it's not about BSing yourself. I think this question can help you move from a despaired thought to a more positive thought, but not dismissing what was in your space. We never want
mm,
to dismiss what's in your space because it's part of your humanness.
right.
Yeah.
I think that it's so important for people to contact you because when you
Thank you.
say it's true when you say
Mhm.
certain things or utilize certain words, it seems so simple to just, oh, okay, I can say this to myself or I can do that. But
Yeah.
people, including myself, don't know to do that or to say that and how it can really benefit, and I think that it's such a benefit to people to contact people like yourself just because you think that or you like what you were saying before, like I have to stay positive, but that's not good enough. You need to find another avenue to take to kind of help yourself. And the words that you use and the tactics that you use are of such benefit to people.
So I thank you. I appreciate that. So I just wanted to hop on something that you said. When you're trying to tell yourself, I just have to be positive,
Yeah.
and I have to just be positive. When you're not being positive, like you can't.
Yeah.
I'm air quoting can't in
Yeah.
that moment. Do you know what's happening
No.
in your body? You are creating a stress response, right? Because
Mm.
you're not able to be positive. So, but I'm supposed to be positive and I can't be positive. Oh my God, I'm so bad. I can't even be positive. So
Mm.
now you're taking an internal bat and you're beating yourself up because you can't be positive in the moment and you're not positive. So you're a bad person. And because you're a bad person, you must not be liked. And then if you're not liked, you're not loved. And oh my God, you're
Yep.
not worthy. And I mean,
Vicious cycle.
how
Yeah.
exhausted are you just from my like 1 second rant?
Yeah.
Do you know that that's what goes on internally? A lot of times, mostly unconsciously, all the
Mm.
time.
Wow. That's
So,
incredible.
so it's about saying to yourself, huh, I I am choosing to look at this in a positive light. What can I extract? What can I pull out that is positive?
Mm.
And then you focus on that.
I love
Again,
it.
it's taking something that's sucky and going, okay, but what is positive about that suck? Okay, well, that suck just taught me a life skill that
Mm-hmm.
now I can create and build that muscle.
Yeah. It's my hope
Yeah.
that rather than people have something devastating happen in their lives and then look at themselves and say, oh, I'm so grateful. When bad things happen, it's my hope that more people can just turn themselves around with the methods that you said rather than
Yeah.
waiting for something bad to happen to turn it around or
Yeah.
something detrimental to themselves when
Yeah.
sometimes it could help you in that moment. But so now here is the top question I have
Ah,
for you.
okay. What?
Drum roll.
It's a
Do
test.
It's a
Pop
test.
quiz.
No, no, no. Oh my God, pop quiz. Do you continue educating yourself
Oh, yeah.
as a life coach, or are you always trying to improve also on your methods?
100%. I'm
Yeah.
human. So there's going to be days when I'm knocked down, right? And I'm like, huh, okay, that's not working. What else can I do? And that's why, like, I used to be, I want to say a rager, and I'm air quoting. Not that I would like ever hit, but I
Yeah.
used to slam doors.
Mm.
And that was like my favorite thing ever. Like, wow, what a rush. But, I definitely scared my family because who wants to have slamming doors?
Yeah.
Because of the work that I do and continue to do, my family and I were talking about this on my birthday. They don't remember the last time I slammed a door.
Mm.
Now, does that mean
That's
I never
great.
get angry
Mm.
or enraged? No, I just know how to support myself different. I know how to
Right.
set a boundary. I know when, things are getting too heated for me. So I can remove myself. I can run it out. I can journal it out. I can talk to somebody. I work with a life coach because I believe in the work. And I continue to take certifications because I love the work.
Yeah.
And so I continue um, getting certified in different modalities. That's why I'm
Yeah.
certified in a lot of areas.
Right.
Um, and
And that's
yeah,
great.
I think it's important. I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely important. I grow, I'm able to hold a bigger space
Yeah.
for somebody else's heart. And let me tell you something, Julie,
Mm.
holding somebody's heart in my hands is such a honor and a gift and a
Mm.
blessing. And being able to watch somebody make peace with themselves in any way, it's just I believe I was put on this planet to do that, to
You are.
really just make a difference.
Yes, I agree. And you're one of those people that, like I was saying before, ever evolving and always trying to make things better for yourself and for others. And there's not a lot of people in this world that are like that. I think that, people might view a life coach as a therapist, and as
Yeah.
obviously, no, it's
No.
it's quite different. And
Mm-hmm.
I would actually recommend that people look into um, someone like yourself doing this work, because it really can help. It's just such a great match for anybody, as long as they're willing to be honest with you
Yeah.
and put in the
Yeah.
work as well. Because without them helping themselves with the techniques you teach them, then they're not going to grow. But I can completely understand how you must feel when one of your clients has a massive breakthrough.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can only imagine what that feels like.
It's rewarding, but at the end of the day, when a client does say, you did it,
Oh,
thank you so much for the work you did, you changed my life. And I will always say to them, no, you did.
you did it.
You
Yeah.
changed your life because you did the work.
Yeah.
I can't I can't change for them. And I do tell my clients when they sign up with me, listen, if you give 100%, you're getting 1,000,000% back. If you
Mm.
give 10%, that's what you're going to get. And that would be on you.
So rewarding for
Um,
both people involved, and then
yeah.
for other people that surround you and that surround them, because when you help heal somebody and they heal themselves, they make the world better for other people as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like a
Yeah.
domino effect. That's why we need more of you in this
Aw.
world, to
Aw,
make
you're
make
too sweet.
people, you know
You're too sweet.
get out of their own way, basically.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
Hmm.
so can you please let everybody know how they can contact you, your Facebook, Instagram, all that?
Yeah, I have a coaching page. I put out content all the time. I give tips and tricks and all of that. It's Shari Coltune Coaching on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
My website is sharicoltune.com. Like I said, I am going to be doing a group coaching model. I'm going to keep it very small because I love a very intimate, safe container.
Mm,
I can run multiple groups, but I want them smaller.
right.
And yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so
Yes.
much again. We're gonna have to do
Thank
it
you.
again and again
Yes.
and again, just to keep
Yes, yes, yes.
reinforcing everyone.
Yes, that's
Again
great.
and again. Okay, well, thank you so much, Shari. And everybody, if you want to contact me, I'm also on Insta and Facebook at Nothing But Julie. And have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. Thank you, Shari.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.